it's overwhelming, but it's also our jobs.
Our job is only going to get harder.
It's worrisome.
This is something that's unprecedented.
Now is not the time to be a cowboy. No one has anything to prove. We're all in this together.
Welcome to Reporting from the Frontline of a Pandemic. I'm Maya Huter, and I'm here with Maria Santora, a sports reporter at KVAL and KMTR in Eugene, Oregon. Thanks, Maria, for joining me.
Yes, of course.
All right, so my first question is, how have you had to adjust the way you work during this time?
A massive adjustment, especially because at first no one really knew the severity of it. So I think at first, or really my role has shifted so much in such a short amount of time. At first, they had just said, okay, you're not going to anchor on the weekends, which is my primary role. We're going to have you work Monday through Friday, and you'll anchor the sports show. Our main anchor will go to news. Then we could only have one person at the anchor desk. So the person who was going to move to news went back to sports. I was taken off anchoring, and I was strictly reporting. Then we weren't allowed to have everybody in the office because everyone had to be 6 feet apart. So then they gave me stuff to go work at home. So now I've been working at home. It's been about 2 weeks of working just from my living room. So really every other day it was a new adjustment and trying to abide by the CDC and what they were saying. So really every day it was something new, and that's what I've been doing now is I've been working from home for the past 2 weeks. A lot of that is Skyping, FaceTiming. There are some people in Eugene who I can go see, and we have these, actually my coworker's card. We have little cards that in case we get stopped by police that prove that we are with the media and we're allowed to be out. So really there's just a bunch of little things that are very different.
So since sports have effectively been put on hold for right now, has that changed what you've been covering? Have you been assigned more general news, or have you been kind of sticking to what sports you can cover?
They have kept me with sports, and really it's just given us time to be super creative, which I really, really like. We're not doing the typical packages, but we are still doing sports stories and sports packages. We're interviewing, or I've really interviewed a lot of people or people in sports who have been affected by this. So the other day I interviewed the play-by-play broadcaster for the Seattle Mariners because the other day was supposed to be opening day. I interviewed a couple of Olympians who were supposed to participate in the Olympic trials that were going to be held here in Eugene. Some swimmers who used to go to Oregon State and that they were going to participate in the Olympic trials, some Oregon baseball players, things like that. So a lot of it is still interviewing coaches and players who kind of got their seasons or their Olympic trials stripped away from them or postponed, some of them. So it is a little different, but then also I don't want to make every sports story about the coronavirus. I think sports is kind of an escape for a lot of people. So we are still trying to find stories that bring a little bit of happiness and not just coronavirus 24/7. So it's kind of a mix of both.
Right. So my next question was actually kind of be about that. So like you had said, a lot of athletes have had their whole plan and whole, life plan for the rest of the season kind of uprooted. And a huge part of that, Sabrina Ionescu for the women's basketball team, was poised to kind of lead us to an NCAA championship. And that was a huge deal. Have you gotten to hear from athletes like that, maybe who are seniors or, where this is really the end of their time and they weren't ready for it? Have you gotten to hear from athletes like that and how they're dealing with it?
A lot of seniors. I think the Sabrina one breaks my heart the most. Selfishly, I was so excited to cover them.
I think we all were excited to watch, yeah.
The NCAA tournament. I had been looking forward to the NCAA tournament, especially because Oregon and Oregon State are both very great teams. They both were projected to go very far. Same with the men. So selfishly, I was disappointed, but I can't even imagine what they're feeling. I did interview a few seniors. I interviewed Michaela Pivick. She is a senior at Oregon State, and she has just said, I feel like forever I'm going to have this what if feeling. And yes, they understand and that the safety of everybody is way more important, but it's always going to be that feeling of what could have been. She had told me that if the NCAA allows it, she will come back for another year if they grant it to winter sport athletes. So that's also a part of it. They're not really sure right now if their careers are actually done or not. I think somebody like Sabrina Ionescu, she's done. She's going to the WNBA for sure. But Michaela Pivic said she would come back, and I think that that's pretty cool that right now there is a chance that some of these stars that everybody loves could be back in a Beavers uniform or a Ducks uniform. So it's kind of both. Yes, they're very disappointed. They're understanding of it, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the end for their college careers quite yet.
Right. And then another thing that you slightly touched on, but Hayward Field, a huge thing here in Eugene. They've been spending hundreds of millions of dollars to get this ready for the Olympic trials. Now that's being postponed to 2021, which in turn has pushed the World Championships, I think, to 2022. So have you heard much about, what that's looking like, and are they going forward with construction, or is it kind of just all on hold right now?
I was there the other day doing a stand-up after I interviewed a couple of runners, and there were construction workers there. I've heard that somebody in the news department did a story about it, that the construction workers are upset about it and they don't feel like they should be working right now, and they are nervous for their safety. But I don't know a ton about that. When I was there, they were still working. And if I were them, I would be a little upset or nervous too. But as far as from the sports standpoint, everything is pushed back. Which when I talked to a runner, his name is Ben Blankenship. He was a 2016 Olympian, and he was going to participate in the trials. He runs for the Oregon Track Club in town. That's who he trains with. And he was saying that it doesn't have to be a bad thing. Hayward is going to be so new to everybody that when you're training, you kind of want to get into the facility beforehand, try and map out, where you're walking from your car into the building so that you're not exerting a ton of energy. You're not walking around the entire stadium. And he doesn't feel like he would have had that much prep time to see Hayward and figure out a plan of attack and a route and what he wants his, every step to look like when he gets there, because construction was going to basically go right up until the trials. So he's saying now he will have time to see Hayward ahead of time. It will be done with plenty of time. So it kind of is a positive. Ben in general is very positive about it, but I think a lot of athletes are just excited to get into Hayward. Hayward is so historic. It's Tracktown USA here, so I think whenever everybody does get to be in there, even if it is postponed, it's going to be epic, because Hayward is just, even driving by it, it's massive. It looks beautiful already. So whenever they get in there, it's going to be really cool.
So another thing that you touched on was that you're trying to still incorporate some happy, fun stories. Can you tell me a little bit about maybe what the most fun, happy story you've gotten to do in light of sports in this time?
This is still kind of coronavirus themed, but I've been working on a story of some of the fun things the athletes are doing in their spare time. So picking up new hobbies, whether they're making crazy TikTok videos, just things they're doing to stay occupied right now, because it is such a strange time. And I don't know if I just said this or not, but some of their workouts are even strange. Eugene Emeralds are in town, which is the minor league team associated with the Cubs. And one of their athletes put out a video, he's from Oklahoma, of him and his workout, and he's flipping tractor tires, and his dad's on a dirt bike, and he's trying to pull the dirt bike back and things like that, just to stay in shape. So a lot of videos like that, just the fun things and the creative things that they're doing to stay in shape, because it is so relatable right now. Everybody's doing it. Everybody's trying to find something to stay occupied and entertained. So things like that. I was able to go outside and play some catch with an Oregon baseball player. We called it Catching Up with Eugene. And just talk about what he's been up to since his season was postponed. So trying to keep it lighthearted, trying to keep it fun, because sports are supposed to be fun. Those are the two I can think of off the top of my head, at least.
That sounds like, yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun. So kind of shifting over to your station and how your station is handling everything. How have they had to change the way they cover the news? You kind of touched on it a little bit, but
Um, like from our standpoint, like how they treat us, or just what they're airing?
both. Like, obviously the stories are a lot more corona based and everyone's working from home. So how has that really changed your coverage, I guess?
Well, it's definitely made us have to communicate very differently. A lot of more phone calls. I know that the news department has conference calls basically every half hour just so that they're always on the same page. We get a lot of stuff from Portland and Seattle, some of our sister stations, and Washington is a hotspot for the coronavirus. So I know that they're getting a lot of big stories from there that we air on our channel. Um, I do know that they are trying, or they, at least on the weekends, have been trying to incorporate, an uplifting segment. So even if it is coronavirus based, some of the parades that people are doing to honor the nurses and um, things like that. I know that they were incorporating that, but really for us, it's just the communication is so different because you're not face to face. You can't walk 2 feet and go talk to your news director or your assistant news director or the other staff. It's sending a lot of emails, picking up the phone and calling each other, sending so many texts just to make sure that everybody is always on the same page. I'm not sure if that answered your question, but just that aspect is really different because you're used to all being in one room, and when you're not, you have to communicate so much more to make sure that the show still goes smoothly and operates the way it should, as if everybody was still in one room.
And what kind of precautions is the station taking to make sure that you guys are staying safe?
Well, I'm not allowed in it. That's for one. For the sports department, we're a team of 5. Only one of us is allowed in there, our producer, and he stacks the show. He'll send us any video that we need. So if I'm doing Oregon baseball story, he'll send me some old Oregon baseball footage so that I'm not going to the station. I know they have a lot of hand sanitizer out. I know that no matter what your desk is, you can't sit next to somebody. You have to be a couple desks lanes apart. Of course, I haven't been there in about 2 weeks, so I don't know for certain what it looks like, but I know that they wanted as few people there as humanly possible. I know that some of the people in the news department, some of the reporters have photogs. We never really have photogs for sports, but the photogs and the reporters can't be in the same car together. They have to take 2 separate cars so that they're abiding by the 6 feet apart. And really there's, no overlap. Nobody's really sharing cameras, or we're trying not to swap things back and forth. And if you are, it's with the same one other person. You're not swapping it between several people. So you pretty much have your equipment. It's designated for you. And you kind of just stay away from everybody. But yeah, I'm not in the office, so I can't say for certain what they're doing. I know that we only have 1 anchor at the desk for every show. We normally have 2. And that's really it.
And so since you've been working from home, how have you been able to balance that work life and home life since now they're kind of one?
I'm not gonna lie, it's really challenging. I get super distracted. I have cats here, so I find myself playing with my cats, so I'm supposed to be editing. The first day was probably the hardest. I spent the entire day watching HGTV, and I had a package to edit, and so I got up and edited from midnight to like 5:45 in the morning because I didn't do my work, which is probably horrible to admit, but it's the truth. I don't know. I have to really sit down and focus. I have to put my phone on the other side of the room. I have to turn my TV off. Try not to go towards the refrigerator because I find myself snacking more than I normally would. It definitely is a challenge for sure to not get distracted, or to not take a nap, or to not hop on FaceTime with your friends and your mom, which at work, like, you just don't do. You don't sit on the FaceTime with your mother in the office, you know what I mean? So it, at least for me, has been really, really challenging to stay focused and to do the task at hand. But when I got a planner, I've been trying to jot out my day, the things I want to accomplish, the things I want to finish, and that's keeping me a little bit more on task. but I'm still not the best at it.
So, of course, all of us who are graduating right now, it's kind of a difficult time to be trying to enter the workforce. What kind of advice would you have for broadcast journalism students who are graduating and trying to seek employment right now?
I can't even imagine how hard it is right now to find a job, because a lot of people are losing their jobs. The one thing I will say about news is that we are always going. We never stop, and more than ever, I think news is really important. People are really looking to us to kind of feed them the information they need. Um, I still think it's going to be hard for a lot of people to find jobs right now. I don't even know if people are looking to hire right now, really in any field. Um, and I know from when I was applying, even when positions were open, um, it could be really draining. It could be really exhausting. It could be a really defeating feeling. Um, but any Emerson student, and especially any of Marcia's students who come out the other side, you're ready for this. I know you're ready for it. If you could finish Marcia's class, you can do this. um, and the advice I would really give anybody, aside from staying positive, and not letting all of this kind of feel defeating, is to be open to going absolutely anywhere. I know Marcia probably harps on that quite a bit, but I'm from New Jersey, obviously went to school in Boston. I took my first job in Fargo, North Dakota. That was not on the list of places I wanted to go. I was terrified, but it ultimately got me here to Eugene. I love Eugene. And so that would be my advice, is to not let a new place, a place you probably wouldn't necessarily choose to go, scare you, because it's only 2 years. It goes by so fast. I'm almost done with my 2 years in Eugene. I have about 9 months left. So I'm getting close to having to look for new jobs too. And it goes by so fast. You will come out so much stronger and so much tougher. You'll be way more independent if you do. So that would be my advice. Don't be afraid to go anywhere. And right now, while jobs are hard to get, stay positive. Know that you're good enough, because like I said, any Emerson student and any student of Marcia's, you are good enough to do this.
Well, that's really good advice. Makes me feel a little better.
You can do it. I promise you can.
My last question is just, is there anything else you'd like to add about this whole experience, or about, your time being with KVAL and KMTR, especially right now?
I think the one thing I'm really trying to do is just to stay positive. I think all of the people that I've interviewed have really found such positive ways to look at this. There are people going through so much worse. I just feel lucky that I have a job. They're still allowing me to do sports. I still get to tell stories. It's allowing me to be creative in ways I never really thought I would have to be creative. You definitely have to think outside the box. You definitely have to look for stories. I think a lot of times when sports are happening so regularly, stories are kind of just handed to you. You don't really have to seek them out. But I've really had to dig to find people to interview. I'm reading articles from 2016 and finding where those people are now to see if they're still doing the things that the old articles say that they're doing. And I feel like I'm stalking people, but truthfully, that's like what I've had to do to find people to do stories on. So it has made me feel kind of like an investigative reporter almost. You are really having to look for stories and be creative. And I think in our business and what we do, it's kind of nice. But really, I'm just trying to stay positive, because like I said, there are so many people who have it so much worse, have it so much harder. And I think the easy thing to do is, say, woe is me. I think I was like that at first. I'm stuck in Oregon by myself. My family's in New Jersey. I'm in isolation completely by myself with 2 cats. So I don't get a whole lot of social interaction, and that can be kind of draining and hard. But I keep telling myself that it's me sitting here by myself is helping so many other people, and I'm still getting to do what I want to be doing. I still get to work every day. I still get a paycheck. I can pay my rent, roof over my head. I'm not sick. My family's not sick. And so at the end of the day, that's really what matters. So just trying to find something positive every day has been the best thing that I think that I could do for myself.
Thank you, Maria, for taking the time to talk to me, and thank you for the work you're doing to keep us informed and safe. And thank all of you for watching this episode of Reporting from the Front Line of a Pandemic. I've been talking with Maria Santora, a sports reporter at KVAL and KMTR in Eugene, Oregon. I'm Maya Huter.